All right, guys, we're live. So this is our patrons chat for the month of August 2019, and I'm joined already by Big Pod and Willie. How are you guys doing this morning?
Great.
Oh, oh, that's my fault. Actually, it's more than one of us. Make sure we have the stream muted.
Yeah, it was me.
Okay. Yeah. And
I forgot I don't have headphones.
yeah, I don't either. Give me just a second. Although I could probably get away with it because of some of the noise suppression I'm using. I don't think the mic would pick it up, but I better put headphones on just in case. All right, so Big Pod was telling me he got him a new computer. Well, a new to him computer. Right. Okay. And you're running Ubuntu on it. Why Ubuntu and not Fedora? I thought you were like one of the big Fedora fanboys. Ah, so what are you going to do on that machine? Okay. Mm-hmm. So what are you doing with the Docker containers? Mm-hmm. Cool. And what are you running these days, Willie? Ubuntu? Okay. Guess we're... Oh, wow. Well, that was a good version of Ubuntu. I ran 1604 on one of my machines for almost 2 years. Almost till 1804. I never installed 1804. But 1604 was a good release. 1404 before it was also a good long-term support release. Right now, I've actually got Ubuntu Budgie 1904 on the laptop behind me. I've been running that 2-3 months now, and it's been great. Of course, it's an interim release, so I've got to upgrade it to 1910 if I want to stay on it, but I'll probably hop to something else. I usually use the laptops for hopping test machines, so. We're still running Arco on the main production machine, although I've had the urge to hop here recently. Hold on, guys. Hold up. We've got some audio problems. Nobody can hear you guys. Well, this is going to be a pulse audio problem. Let's see. Big Pod, say something.
Test.
All right. All right, guys. Big Pod, keep talking for a minute.
I don't know what I need to say.
That's good. Now good. All right. Pulse audio.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got too much audio equipment plugged in. Zoom never picks the right inputs. Neither does Pulse Audio half the time. All right. Yeah, so what you guys missed those first couple of minutes was just Big Pod and Willie saying they run Ubuntu now.
On my laptop, I still run Arch.
On Arch, yeah. Yeah, so I'm still on Arco, but like I said, I've been thinking about hopping. I've been 4 months now or so on this new machine running Arco since I got it.
I guess it's time for you to switch to Gentoo.
I don't know.
Stream.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could install Gentoo on a live stream on this machine, but I don't know if I'd want to live in Gentoo. I mean, I could do a live stream install and then wipe it out right after.
I actually installed on my laptop Gentoo like in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. Actually, when I watched the streams by Zeb, I was asking myself if I did something wrong.
Right, so I saw the like the 8.5 hour stream that Zeb did.
There are 3
And then-
streams up until now, and they are long as hell. And
Yeah.
I got it running on my 4-core 4-thread laptop like in a couple of hours. So
Then I saw the English Bob stream, and that one was like 7 or 8 hours. I saw Chris Titus do a Gentoo stream, and that was took forever. The other night, about 3-4 nights ago, I came home from work, and Ricky, Yu-Gi-Oh Master, was doing a Gentoo live stream. And Ben Fitzpatrick was in there, so was Serge. They were helping him do a live Gentoo install on a live stream. These guys have gotten like 10 people to do Gentoo live streams in the last month, and they got Ricky.
yeah.
And I caught it about 2 hours in, and then Serge had to leave. He was like, well, DT's here. He can help you get the rest of the way, because he was going to install OpenBox or whatever. I said, I'll jump in the stream, because it's already been going 2 hours. They're probably almost done. 6.5 hours later, we were still on that stream.
And
And
where did it go wrong?
No, he was just installing it on really old equipment. It just took, the compile times took forever.
Okay.
And he was trying to stream on the same machine that he had the VM on. So guys, if you're going to do a Gentoo install, live stream from one machine, SSH into the machine that you're actually installing it. Because you're using 100% of your CPU to stream, pretty much. It can't compile. So that's why these guys, I think, are having these 8-9 hour marathon streams.
Zeb has the Threadripper, so
right, he's got a good machine.
And my compile times are just as fast as his with my pretty bad i5 with 4 cores for 8 threads.
Well,
generation.
If he was streaming on the same machine he was trying to install on, he wasn't. No. He might have not set the number of threads right either.
Serge helped him, so he did.
Okay.
It was Serge and Zeb, so that's why I thought I did something wrong myself.
Yeah.
Because those 2 guys took hell of a long of a time, and I was like, okay. And I had to compile my own kernel. Not that I could use the Gen kernel one. No, I had to compile my own kernel because Gentoo kernel is too old for my laptop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Ricky's Gentoo installation was getting so long and so frustrating because I just hopped on for a minute, and then I'm there hours later because I wanted to see him at least get Xorg and OpenBox up and running, and then I was going to jet out. And it just took forever for him to install anything. The last thing, he finally got OpenBox installed, and I was like, well, before you log in, you need a web browser or, text editor, terminal, get a few things installed. So he installed URXVT, and that took, 10, 15 minutes to compile, which is crazy because that's not a big program. And then he decided he needed a browser. He was going to install Firefox. I was like, that could be iffy on Gentoo.
Could be long, except if we go for a binary version.
Right, he did. And me and Ben Fitzpatrick both suggested Firefox-bin. So he was going to install the binary version, but one of the dependencies for Firefox is ffmpeg.
Oh,
and that's when I called timeout.
So disable it.
Yeah, well, I just told him don't install Firefox. Go with the Lynx browser, the terminal browser for now. Install Firefox off camera because we weren't about to wait an hour and a half for ffmpeg to compile.
In my I believe I also took like something like 8 hours, but I did compile Firefox, Chromium, GNOME, KDE. Basically, I went for basically I wanted exactly same software set I have on my RHC system. Yeah. Basically, 8 hours and half of that, compiling the software that is in the system.
Well, those compile times make sense for you installing GNOME or Zeb. He probably installed, Mate or, some full XFCE, some full desktop environment.
Yeah, but he took 3 streams, not 1, 3 streams of, I believe, 6 to 8 hours for all of them, and he still don't have compiled version of Firefox. He still uses binary version.
Right.
And I did like Chrome, Firefox, KDE, GNOME, everything, basically everything. And
Right.
it took me just as long as his one stream.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
maybe I did something wrong.
We should all get together and do a live Gentoo install one time. I'll install it on the Threadripper, but I'll stream from one of my laptops. That way, we're not conflicting with the actual install by streaming.
Yeah.
We could get it done in 2 hours, no problem. That's
Yeah.
what reading the wiki and instructing people what to do, and these 9-hour marathon streams are ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If I actually go like I was on a second system when I was doing it, so
Right.
SSH, so I could copy paste what was in there into the SSH terminal, so I didn't have to retype it and make a mistake. But I did read everything, and I found out that making a kernel isn't even that hard.
No, I mean, you can compile a kernel on any distro. It's not, that part of it is not that unique to Gentoo, I guess.
No, in making custom kernel isn't that hard.
Right. Yeah, right. You can always
know your hardware.
Yeah, I mean, you can. There's instructions in the Ubuntu wiki for how to compile a new kernel if you want to on Ubuntu. I don't know why you would do it, but it's there if you want it. So.
And what I can tell, NVIDIA NVENC works great on Gentoo with OBS.
NVENC works good. Oh yeah, on Gentoo it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the strengths of Gentoo is the repos. You can find everything really that you need.
And what you can't, you have in one of the overlays, which is basic.
Yeah. That's
PPAs for the Gentoo.
Right. It's like your PPAs or your AUR. It's another place to go get software that's not the official repos.
Yeah. But works.
Yeah.
Or you can do it yourself.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, I don't know if I'll hop this week. I've got a lot planned this week, but I'm thinking of eventually maybe moving off of an Arch distro and maybe going to something not Arch based for a little while on the main production machine.
What are you thinking of moving to?
I've thought about doing Void. I thought Void would be interesting.
Yeah.
Thought about doing Solus. People have asked me about Solus. That could be interesting too.
I didn't have good luck with Solus.
I've run it a little bit before. I actually ran it for about 2 or 3 weeks on my last machine, my production machine, and I actually did record some stuff with it. The only thing I didn't like about Solus, it was fine as far as making content. I found OBS and I had the NVIDIA drivers I needed and all that. But a lot of the terminal programs I like to use, command line programs I like to use, some of the window managers I like to use, they weren't even in the repos.
Yeah, that's like a big problem with it. The repos are small.
Right. So Qtile I don't think was in their repos at the time, which isn't a big deal because Qtile is Python. You can always use pip to install it. Xmonad, I don't remember if it was Xmonad or Xmobar. One of them was not in the repos, which if you don't have Xmobar, it's kind of hard to use Xmonad if you don't have the panel.
Yeah.
But being Haskell, you could use Cabal to install those. So I'm using all these other package managers basically to install software. I'm like, you know what, this is going to be a headache eventually because you're installing from so many different places. I wonder about dependency issues when you start doing that, especially when you can't find it anywhere and have to build it from source.
Yeah.
So I don't like building a ton of stuff from source. If I'm on a distro and I've got to build a ton of packages from source, I'm going to switch distros. So
yeah.
All right, looks like we got somebody new here. Sinkwitch, how you doing?
Hey, I don't know how the volume is. Is this good?
Echo.
It's got a little bit of an echo. It's kind of strange. It's like a little reverb to it.
I'm in a hardwood floored room, so that could be causing that.
Oh, I see. Yeah. There's no carpet. Yeah, the volume is pretty good. Yeah, it's just a bit of an echo, but I don't think there's anything you can do in that room. Yeah, until you get some carpet and some drapes. You got to get some cloth in that room.
Currently, yeah, it's all hardwood throughout the house.
Oh, yeah. That's why most folks that do YouTube or podcasting, radio at their house, you always have to pick a room that's carpeted. Some people hang carpet on the walls. You'll hang sheets of carpet on the wall. You just put as much fabric in the room as possible to keep the echo down.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So what are you running these days, Sinkwich?
Let's see. Well, right now I am on one machine that's got Fedora because it's required for work. And
Big Pod's favorite.
Arch better.
He said Arch is better.
Yeah. Well, that's actually what I used to run for a while. Just don't have it installed anything right now.
Right.
Got NetBSD on something. I know you're a big BSD fan.
I haven't tried NetBSD. I did not like TrueOS, and GhostBSD seemed like it was a fine project. I just couldn't get it to run on my hardware. TrueOS I was able to get running, but my God, that default desktop environment that they use, that Lumina desktop, why are you shipping with that? That makes no sense. There's so many good desktop environments. Just pick one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Was it OpenBSD that has another tiling window manager called like CWM or something? That's the one I keep hearing folks or something like that.
CWM, I don't know that one. I've never heard of that.
I feel like there's one that's well known on OpenBSD, and everyone was trying to get Luke Smith to change to that at one point, and of course he's using Void, not OpenBSD. That was their progressive steps. They wanted him to go to OpenBSD next.
Yeah, OpenBSD would probably be more in line with his philosophy. Void, if you're kind of a suckless kind of person, you like the suckless tools and you like minimal code, it makes sense. Void Linux really makes sense if you're that kind of guy. OpenBSD also makes sense if you're that kind of guy. So it makes sense, for Luke Smith to run stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I've got a bit of big Microsoft news because Big Pod is a big fan of Microsoft as a company. exFAT.
Yeah, exFAT.
We have exFAT now. When are we going to get NTFS? That's the next question.
Yeah.
Do we want it is the better question.
New technology.
Some people do want it, yes.
Yeah.
New technology file system. The best name ever.
Of course, do we really want exFAT? I guess some people did.
Yeah, exFAT is quite important in my opinion.
Yeah.
Since a lot of cameras use exFAT for SD cards or what it was called. External SSDs, the special SSDs for cameras. All of those are used with exFAT, and native support for exFAT is great. Will be great for those people who want to use Linux with such cameras.
Well, that's great. Linux is trying to be more compatible with some of this proprietary stuff that was out there for years. But why don't Microsoft and Apple, make their operating systems more compatible with Extend 4 and ButterFS and things like that? Why are we trying to make our stuff compatible for their operating? They never come to us, and we always have to go to them.
It's not that. It's the fact that FAT32 was used before exFAT for such stuff, and it was a natural progression for them because FAT32 had a problem of 4 gig file limit with because it was 32-bit file system. So most of them who used FAT32 switched to exFAT because only thing different was they didn't have that limitation, and it's a bit newer as a whole. So that's why they actually changed to exFAT, not something like ext4 or NTFS, something like that.
Well, of course, the big thing is now Microsoft's part of the Open Invention Network, the OIN. So they're part of that group of companies that shares patent. They have this non-aggression treaty, basically, where they won't sue each other over these patents. So now that Microsoft is a member of that, well, Red Hat's a member of it, Canonical's a member. We can all use exFAT. It's the reason we can all.
exFAT patents are not yet part of OIN, but Microsoft is hoping that it will be soon in the next couple of months.
It's already in the kernel now, so I would assume everything's good. The kernel guys couldn't put it in there if the lawyers said.
They said that even if not right now, they already released the technical specification, and even before OIN patent becomes part of OIN, Linux guys can use it, and there won't be any problems. At least
So
from outside.
So in the chat, Total OS Today, you guys know Toss. If you're not subscribed to Toss, check him out. He says, I used to be exFAT. Yeah, very funny, Toss.
I'm still fat.
All right. So Russ in the chat. DT, what is your opinion on the best distro for using Steam? I don't know if it really matters what distro you run.
No,
probably rolling release distros would probably be best because you always want to have a fresh kernel and a fresh driver.
Other option would be Pop OS. Pop OS, something like Manjaro, which is Manjaro or Arch.
If you didn't want to do rolling, probably fixed releases that also have good kernels and drivers. Fedora usually is pretty good as far as it's not old packages. Things like Debian Stable would be horrible probably for your Steam experience. It's just well, not now. It's new now, but in a year,
Debian Stable is already half a year old.
Right.
It was just released.
Right.
Packages are already half a year old, so
the Ubuntu LTS releases, although they're great for almost everything, probably wouldn't be that good for Steam.
No.
Mint, probably the same. It would be older packages. Manjaro. I'm just going to throw Manjaro out there, maybe.
Manjaro is good, yeah. It already has Steam pre-installed and set up.
The Solus guys do a lot with integrating Steam into Solus, so maybe that would be an option.
Said Pop OS has like this Steam and gaming as a part of it, and actually they have some packages that are newer than actual Ubuntu repositories. Even 1904 repositories, they have packages that are newer, more rolling, along with Kernel. Kernel is one of those packages, but I'm not sure.
No. Well, the Pop OS guys are maintaining some of their own repositories, mainly to support their hardware.
Yeah, and some packages, additional packages, to get the better experience. Like, we believe some development stuff is included in that.
Yeah, EB, English Bob, says Pop OS or Salient OS. So, how you doing, EB?
Hey guys, how's it going? Thought I'd join the
Hey Chris. What you been up to, Chris?
Oh, not much, man. Just jumping off my morning live stream. I usually live stream for a couple hours on Twitch, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So,
cool. And it's gaming streams you do on Twitch, or you do other stuff?
Yeah, just gaming. Really to avoid the content ID of YouTube. You guys, you know how that is.
You know, I actually had a video removed last week from YouTube.
Oh no!
The first, I've been demonetized hundreds of times, and then you appeal and get it remonetized. They actually sent me an email last week that we removed your video because it violates our terms of policy or whatever. And it was the video I did about YouTube-DL, the command line utility for downloading and watching YouTube.
Yeah, that's probably because
I forgot.
They don't like that video.
Yeah,
there's an appeal process I can go through. I don't know how successful that appeal. Yeah, because they say, well, you read their terms of conditions as far as what gets removed, and it's violent stuff and hate speech and pornographic content. Like, I can't find anywhere where that video qualifies, but the fact that I guess I'm showing people how to watch YouTube without being on YouTube violates their policy.
No,
it does. Yeah, it does.
Download itself violates it.
Yeah, the actual YouTube-DL program is against their terms of service, so it's almost like showing pirated content.
Yeah,
is how they view it. So that's why it got removed. So yeah, I totally can. I've heard of YouTube doing that for YouTube-DL, but good to know, man.
Yeah, I mean it just uses their APIs to get all that content, the thumbnails and the sound and the video.
Yeah, but that is not the intended use for those APIs to download the specific video.
What else would you use them for, though? I mean, to
get information,
right?
And stuff like that. But
yeah,
That's not a big deal because they didn't give me a strike over it.
No, that's
They just said don't do it again, basically. But
bad smack.
which when I'll be honest though, when I made that video, I knew they would have a problem with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew by the time anybody at YouTube figured out what was up with that video, thousands of people will have watched it and downloaded YouTube. I just wanted people to know about that program because I think it's a neat program.
I use it all the time.
Yeah, I do
Me
too.
too.
I knew the video wouldn't stay up for long, at least not on YouTube. I plan on putting that video elsewhere though, if they end up just deleting it permanently.
Well,
'Cause I'm not going to win the appeal.
No way.
If I'm going for a run or something and I want to listen to something like a video or something,
Yeah.
I will download it and listen to it like that.
Yeah.
Then delete it.
Matter of fact, I probably shouldn't have said YouTube DL here on the stream. Who
Yeah.
knows what's going to happen?
It's going away now.
Yeah, if the stream goes down, you guys in the chat don't know what happened.
We're on the hit list now.
Yeah,
Tainted.
we're all on the list to be shot by the
YouTube authorities.
algorithm.
Yeah, so yeah, we were just talking about the Microsoft exFAT coming to Linux. Chris, what you think? Good news?
Well, I mean, them releasing something under the GPL, I think, is unprecedented. That's the first time they've ever done that. So I think
did they GPL it?
they GPL'd it.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's weird because everything else they've ever done
don't
open
think so,
source,
they
they did
actually
MIT.
GPL'd it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As far as I read the announcement, they didn't mention anything with GPL.
they
I
did.
believe they only released the technical specification, and the specific
Sick.
kernel implementation will be GPL, not the whole exFAT.
I got
Right,
you.
the kernel's licensed under the GPL.
Yeah, and the kernel implementation must be GPL v2, but the exFAT still stays proprietary. It only has technical specification released, but I don't know under what license that is released.
Yeah, so I know some of the
I-
developers weren't liking it because the actual Linux developers were like, "Hey, you guys built this incorrectly." It was something to do with them not putting it on top of the existing exFAT or something of that nature. I can't remember the exact specifics of it, but I remember some of the Linux people, Linux actual kernel developers, weren't exactly happy with how they gave them the information. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, it's exFAT. It's not like anybody's going to use it on their computer.
Well,
Some
No.
cameras and
it will be
stuff.
good for those people who have cameras and stuff like that that need
Yeah.
exFAT, and for those probably native will be better than that fuse driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. And
Yeah, you did have to jump. You're on Ubuntu right now, Big Pod. Yeah, you do have to jump through some hoops
Yeah.
for exFAT on Ubuntu. Like,
Yeah.
isn't there like 2 packages? You have to do the exFAT fuse package to.
yeah,
do
that's
anything
such
with-
deals.
Yeah, it being available right out of the box, it's going to be good. That video, my actual video today, DT, was over exFAT and Linux, and yeah, it was. I was happy to see it, but at the same time, you know, when it's Microsoft, I mean,
Right.
you know, there's an ulterior motive here, and that's why I'm like, I don't know. I mean, are they just trying to give us a bunch of crap that some people barely use to blow it up the kernel? I mean, I don't know what sinister plan they have,
Right.
but I know there
Well,
is.
itself is already bloated, so
Yeah, I mean,
also the main version of kernel, you fully build it. It has a lot of crap in it.
Yeah.
But-
No, yeah, the kernel is, you know,
It's
how
quite,
many millions of lines is the kernel now? 12 million, 15 million. It keeps growing
Yeah.
exponentially every year.
thankfully a
so-
lot of it is in modules, so
Mhm.
it's like you can remove parts of it out during compilation, but otherwise it's quite huge.
yeah,
You go for all kernel modules to be put into the kernel as already compiled in, not modularized. It's quite big.
Yeah.
Did that
Well,
for a joke during Gentoo install.
Well, one of the big things with each new kernel release is not what they add, but they also remove a ton of legacy stuff from the kernel every release.
Yeah.
Just to kind of keep the size down. So.
And legacy stuff, some of the legacy stuff are just stupid to have in.
Oh yeah, weren't they going to remove floppy disks?
Yeah,
at some point?
the direct floppy for floppies for direct connection from floppy drive to the motherboard. The driver for that they were going to remove. All the USB floppies would still work because that's USB drivers,
Right.
and all that.
Interesting.
Because nobody actually uses normal floppy drives anymore.
What was FireWire support like on Linux? Did that ever work?
FireWire, I never tried on Linux.
No,
I haven't either.
I think I had like one external drive like 15 years ago that used FireWire.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is by the time I was on Linux, FireWire, nobody was really using it. Yeah.
I
mean, it's been long gone. 10 years ago was the last time I heard anybody even trying anything with FireWire.
It was neat though, because it was bidirectional as opposed to like a master slave of USB. But whatever, it lost USB 1.
I mean, I got USB-C and that type of stuff these days. So I mean, it doesn't really. Yeah.
I love USB-C.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we all love USB-C.
Yeah.
When it works. Especially with Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt freaks out with Linux.
Oh, yeah.
Thunderbolt is great.
Thunderbolt.
Yeah, that's an Intel technology. Team Blue. Go Team Blue. Used to be Apple technology, but that Intel bought it all together. It was cooperation between Apple and Intel. And
yes, two great companies, Apple and Intel.
On the 3 or 4 day, Intel bought it all.
No cynicism there at all.
I need to just stop.
At least it's better than AMD.
I mean, to be fair, it's letting me power 3 monitors from an external graphics card, so that's neat.
Right.
Through Linux.
Yeah.
But you have to like tweak multiple things and like unplug and replug and hope like twiddle things and eventually.
Well, we had multi-monitors squared away on Linux forever, though. I mean, we've always had multi-monitor support.
Oh, I'm gonna say I have a laptop like that. So it's a laptop that couldn't power 3 4K displays. So that's
okay.
Yeah, I think the only thing when it comes to multi-monitor on Linux that I can think of where Windows comes out ahead, or even Apple in some instances, or Mac, is USB monitors, I guess, or USB support for that.
USB support for monitors.
Yeah.
In Linux. I used to work internship, and we had USB monitors. On Windows, on my laptop, it ran great. On Linux, I didn't even get input.
Yeah, and that's just how it is. And I mean, USB monitors a lot of times are just complete garbage anyways, but it's still, for someone doing business and stuff like that, and they just want to pop up another monitor, there's some benefit to it, but yeah, it only works, I think, mostly on Windows for a lot of those.
Basically, each of us had 3 monitors, and because most of us had laptops, we had only one HDMI normally. So we had one HDMI cable or DisplayPort, and another one was USB Type-C. So we could have 3 monitors, like laptop, then 2 side monitors, or in the center that, and then 2 monitors. That's how my boss set it up. It worked great on Windows.
On Windows.
On Windows.
Yeah. That's actually what I normally used there.
Well, we finally found the use case for Windows if you're using USB monitors.
No, I'm not going to focus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that reminded me. I actually had one of these USB pluggable things for driving a VGA monitor.
Oh, man.
Like one of these.
Wow. Is that a good signal?
No.
I have to have one of those monstrosities for my DVI monitor, old monitor. DVI and VGA, so I'm going to get HDMI to DVI to plug in monitor.
Yeah,
of course, now with modern graphics cards, they're only shipping now. Usually, they'll ship with one HDMI port, and everything else is DisplayPort.
Yeah.
So,
but DisplayPort is better. If I could choose, I would get a DisplayPort every day.
Yeah, all your monitors should be DisplayPort. Yeah,
especially if you have desktop. On laptop, you really can't choose between HDMI and DisplayPort.
The only reason those the only reason those graphics cards include HDMI, that one HDMI input, is if for that one that crazy person that wants to hook up their TV or whatever that has a HDMI. I wanted to bring up a controversial topic because it wouldn't be one of these chats without me bringing up something a little controversial. So, about a week ago, I noticed Lunduke was really pushing this glimpse fork of GIMP really hard on his channel. And I actually have been critical, and I've said it publicly many times on video, of the name GIMP, of that project, and not just GIMP. There are so many bad names for free and open source projects. One of my favorite music players, Dead Beef. I want to know who thought that was good branding, naming your music player Dead Beef. I want to, was the marketing department really behind that? So,
maybe you can listen so loud that even Beef dies.
So yeah, like I've touched on this too, DT, when it comes to all these naming, and I always tell people. I even made a tweet, or I guess to a reply on somebody on Twitter, and I was like, listen, when it comes to Linux, it's run by engineers and some of the most brilliant minds in the industry. However, these guys are not built or even understand marketing, to say the least, and a lot of times what we choose, we have reverse backronyms like Wine and GNU and all these other things. They're really just horrible. Like it's something that I'd have trouble outdoing and coming up with a worst name. I mean, there's just so many bad terminologies in Linux, and to someone say, hey, GIMP should remain, I mean, there's really no debate. I think everyone's like, well, yeah, GIMP's a pretty horrible name.
But not for the reasons that they point out. It's a bad word and all that. It's slow.
I mean, really, a potato kind of thing, man. Yeah.
Well, it's not like it's offensive to handicapped people. I've never met somebody that was disabled or whatever that thought the GIMP was some kind of really derogatory term towards them. But just the name in general, when you think of the GIMP, I'm thinking of the rape scene in Pulp Fiction, or I'm thinking of these people that are into some weird sexual activities. That that name is just not a good name.
It's not a good name. Yeah,
and it has nothing to do with that software. I mean, that software is basically for editing photos and things like that. Why that name? This is just a bad name.
It's mainly people overthinking.
Manipulation program.
Yeah, it's people.
Well, I know it's an acronym. Yeah.
So like the thing is, people overthink it way too much, and really, it comes down when you walk up to your mom and you say GIMP or GNU or Wine or all these things. What is their response? If their response is like give you this weird look, don't use it for your product. I mean, it's really that simple, and that's why I'm like, I don't care if they change it because it's offensive or whatnot. They just need to change it. I mean,
well, so many of these devs are socially awkward. Many of them have a touch of autism. They're not good just dealing with people in general, but they're not good with. They don't think of how the public receives this stuff. Like Richard Stallman is trying to get everybody to call Linux GNU/Linux. No, that's horrible. Nobody's going to call Linux GNU.
For multi-projects, not going to happen.
You're not about to add 5 syllables to a 2-syllable word, right? I'm not doing it.
Exactly, man. And that's the thing. It's all fake outrage. That's why I'm just like, it's a good talking point. It's a good clicking point, I should say. But at the end of the day, the common sense approach is just change the name, man.
That's what I don't get with the GIMP guys is just change the name. They say, well, it's been this way since the beginning of time. It's an old program. They're all over the internet listed as the GIMP. When you search for the GIMP, it's their program that comes up, and I get the internet marketing aspect of it.
So here's what I would say to these guys. I'd say, listen, if I'm a new user and I walk up, and I'm a pretty new Linux user, so I have a pretty fresh eyes on this subject matter. You walk up, you're used to Adobe Photoshop, you're used to these snazzy names, snazzy marketing, and then you're like, oh, there's this dog thing, GIMP. That's my Photoshop equivalent. That is every user's first impression.
Mhm.
I don't care if you have marketing everywhere over that. You need to rebrand yourself. It's not good marketing.
It's not.
Period.
It's also
And it's
we should understand that most people don't even know what GIMP means. Like, especially non-English speakers, don't think of it as a slur because they don't know that that's a bad word. For them, just a word. And
Nobody really thinks that. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, probably like 0.1% of the population thinks GIMP's a bad word. It's just not attractive for me.
I think most people just laugh at the name.
Yeah.
But that's not a good reaction either. It's just I'm laughing at the name of your project.
Right.
And GIMP is such an important project because it is very old. GIMP is actually the creator of GTK, the GTK toolkit. That is actually the original name, the GIMP toolkit. As the GNOME guys actually adopted it from GIMP, so that's where they got it from. They just need to change the name. But hey, if they don't, no big deal. But I think they would get less grief.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they would even get more adoption.
I think they would. I mean, and that's a lot of things with Linux that I always criticize is literally just change the name of half these things because a lot of it is just, just explaining reverse backronyms. Take Wine and GNU. Those are horrible names, and they need to actually change them. I mean, it's just ridiculous because when you say wine, everyone you search for wine on the internet. Guess what? It's going to be an alcoholic beverage that's popping up. And if you hear GNU, I mean, like I said, I've even said this, I think, on a past stream of some sorts, and I said, hey, it sounds like something I did in a toilet last night. I mean, it's just bad all the way around. They just need to change the names of these things. That's why I'm like, I get that they're stuck on them. They've been using them for 25 years. But just because you've been doing something for 25 years doesn't mean you've been doing it correctly. And in the marketing aspect, anybody in marketing will look at this and go, oh, what? You're crazy, man. You're crazy. Change the name.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to get way off on that. I just thought it was, it's been in the news a little bit lately. It's mainly because of the Lunduke video, but then some folks have also been putting some print articles about the fork Glimpse.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why you would install that fork, just if the name, I guess, is offensive to you, but it's basically just GIMP with a different name. So.
Yeah, basically.
All right. So this week, what I've been playing around with a little bit is I've been thinking about building a proper website to mirror my content. And I've decided I hate the modern web. I've said this so many times. I don't want anything to do with PHP or databases or anything like that. I want a static website that just serves pages very fast. So I think I'm going to do something with Hugo. You guys know Hugo, the static site generator Hugo. It seems pretty easy to use. I played around with it for about 3 or 4 hours the other day. And here on localhost. And it's really simple to use. You just write everything in Markdown. I just open up a terminal, do a simple command to do a blog post or whatever. You write it in Markdown and Vim. You save it, and it's live here on localhost. Obviously, on a web server, you could push it with Git, or you could rsync to deploy it. So it's a really neat project. So probably within the next week or two, I'll have something up using Hugo, because I want a proper site, but I want something static. So.
If you ever want to do something like some dynamic stuff, maybe take a look at WebAssembly. Basically being assembly for websites.
Right.
That is like the fastest option. You can actually take many languages and compile them to WebAssembly.
Well, I don't mind doing like dynamic websites when it makes sense. I mean, there's some things that have to have a database and some things you have to use, server-side stuff for. I get that. But for most of what many of us put on the internet, most of this stuff we put on the internet does not have to be run with a big bloated CMS like WordPress or Joomla or anything like that, you know, if you're just posting a blog post once a week or a couple of times a month, why are you even fooling with PHP and MySQL and all of that?
I'm gonna give you an little why I do it. I write websites for clients, and one thing is clients are mostly unknowledgeable, possibly old people, especially if it's some group or like interest group or something like that. They're old people who are managing these websites like day to day. So WordPress is great for that. You just give them a link to the backend, they write an article, and it's boom, it's there.
So I have some thoughts about this. I've actually been doing a lot of research on this, DT, because my current website is just this huge bloated mess. I've had it for like 12 years, christitus.com, and I've had that forever. I've posted tons of issues I've run into in the field, and like, okay, I'm gonna put this on here just because a lot of times I'd fix something and then 6 months later go, oh crap, how did I do that? And I'd go back to it. So I have this giant database of just issues and stuff I've run into, and it's all in WordPress. But you go to like GT metrics and do a site speed test. I have like a top tier CDN, all these things to really speed my site up. It still loads between 2 and just, it's too old school for my liking. So what I'm thinking of doing is something, I don't know if you've really researched much of serverless technologies, but there's things like GridSum and those types of things. And instead of having your site content, it can still be static like you're talking, but instead of having it at a central repository like a server, you distribute it out through a CDN, and it actually hosts all of your website, and you'll literally get load times in fractions of a second, like in some instances less than 100 milliseconds for the entire site to load. It's just blink of an eye. So that's where the future is in website development, really doing serverless technologies and getting it out there, and just probably hosting it all directly on like a CDN. And there's a ton of those out there, but that's what I'm looking at doing, because I really want to take it to that next level and be on the cutting edge or the bleeding edge, really, of website development. That's really where I think everyone's going, or everyone should go, instead of doing static servers.
Yeah, I saw that you do that with combination with Azure and their Azure functions. It is quite powerful, and right now,
Azure functions, what?
It's
he's a big Microsoft fan, Chris.
No,
he's gonna host everything on Azure.
No, get out of here. I'm out. Where's the disconnect button? Not Azure. I'm not.
Wait, Chris. You're hosting on Google. That's just as bad.
Well, at least they don't overcharge me on Google.
Azure has pretty affordable.
Actually, believe, especially for virtual machines, it is quite the same. I believe GCP is actually the most expensive besides the smallest tier. When you go up in the tiers.
When are you guys going to get on Amazon, like most civilized people? Just go with Amazon.
Hey, AWS only has 80% of the market share, DT.
You're right. It's too mainstream. I need to be...
Yeah, that's not Linux right there. Come on.
Many companies that use cloud will use either Amazon or the Azure, what I've seen here.
Yeah, Chris makes a point, though. If I'm truly a non-conformist, I wouldn't be on Amazon. So I need to look at a different option.
Host it yourself is the best option.
That's not an option. That's not... we do Amazon for the cheap costs. We're not trying to host something ourselves.
I personally don't like Amazon because everything is like is their own terms. There is nothing like they would go for like some general term. Even the virtual machines aren't called virtual machines.
Yeah. Honestly, if you're looking at something, instead of using WordPress, which I think WordPress is really bloated, especially from an install perspective, I've looked at other solutions. If you want to still stick with a VPS and host with a standard server instead of going new age, like what I was talking about just as a secondary option, I did look at using Ghost CMS, which is a content management system that is pretty slick. It's open source. Everything's there. It's just kind of a pain, and you don't get a whole bunch of support through it. But it does have extremely fast load times. I think it's built on Node.js, so it's considerably more efficient and just a lot better as far as page speed. Because like my main sticking point with WordPress was just it's so inefficient with so many JS and CSS calls that I really wanted to break it down and switch up. And I looked at Ghost CMS as well. So that's another option if you're thinking of still wanting a content management system instead of going straight static.
Hey, Synkwitch, say something and see if your audio is working.
Hello.
I got you now.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. It
I'm just making sure. Yeah, you had a working mic.
Yeah, it was one of those classic Linux things where it froze, and then like you kept saying the same thing over and over and over, and I had to close it.
Oh, you got some kind of weird loop? Yeah, that's weird. It must have just been on your end though. Everything looked good here.
Yeah, no, it's definitely me, and I just had to close it and restart. I was going to say, I actually used Hugo today, by the way, for static site.
Oh yeah. And I like I said, I played around with it for about 3 or 4 hours the other day. First time I've ever looked at it, and it's really simple. I mean, it's not complicated, and I like the fact that everything is just plain text, markdown files. Every post would just be a single markdown file. I just add, and boom, it's there.
Yep. My main recommendation for speed, if you wanted to kind of get speed, like Chris was saying, to try to avoid, if you're going to do that, try to bake in your styles and any other files you normally bring in, bake those in so they all get shipped together, and you don't have like 8 different files you're pulling in.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can also do minify as well from your front end.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to do that. So, in the chat, why do DistroTube use Arch instead of Gentoo? I like binaries instead of building from source. Is the quick answer to that. Time. I don't have time to just wait on compiling for everything. It wouldn't do anything for me anyway, because I would just build everything with all the use flags, which if you're going to do that, then you might as well have used Arch, which their binaries are built with all the use flags. So, it's just Arch fits me. Now, if you love Gentoo, go with it. Certainly people have use cases for Gentoo. It's not for me. Chris, I know you're a big proponent of Gentoo. You did the live stream.
Oh Lord. Yeah.
We actually had a discussion earlier about all these Gentoo live streams. There was another one. I came across another guy doing a Gentoo live stream about 4 days ago. I got home from work and he was doing a Gentoo live stream. He was 2 hours in, and I jumped on his live stream to help him out because I'm thinking he's 2 hours in. He's almost done. I was there 6.5 hours later.
Oh Lord.
What is with it with you guys doing these 8-9 hour Gentoo live streams?
Yeah,
I don't understand it.
I got to I went ahead and got to the kernel compile on that one because my live stream was about an hour and a half or something when I did that. And I got to the kernel compile. I'm like, all right, guys, well, I'm going to bed. So I'll see you guys in the next one. And that's pretty much where I ended. I think I sat there and chatted for like another 30 minutes to an hour. But even with 16 threads, with all the proper flags, building the kernel is still going to take a couple hours, I think, something like that.
It takes a long time. It'll be over an hour, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, you know what? I'm out. So I sat there and chatted, but as soon as chat started to die down, I was like, all right, deuces. And that was it. And that's where I ended the stream. But yeah, Gentoo live streams are such a horrible idea. Yeah, but Gentoo itself has its great place. Like, I think anybody that wants to build a box, whatever box it may be, like maybe some monitor in the background or something like that, maybe just a simple one-purpose box, should do Gentoo because you can build it in such a minimal way to where you don't have nearly as much bloat in the kernel like we were talking about earlier. And it just does that one thing so well that you never have to really worry about it again. So I love Gentoo if you have a specific purpose for it. But if you're using it as a daily driver, man, you're just crazy.
Hey, looks like
Mr. Gentoo himself.
Too many times. Ben showed up.
Yeah, Ben. Ben, you ready to start that Gentoo install? If we start it now, we should be done by Sunday.
Oh, hell.
I will be gone 3 times by then.
Oh, Freaking out.
But we figured it out. Me and Ben on that stream a couple of nights ago with Ricky, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master.
Yeah.
Don't try to stream on the same machine
Oh,
you're
no.
installing Gentoo on, because the live streaming is taking up all your CPU, and then you've got nothing left to compile.
You
Oh,
could
no.
Oh, yeah. Ricky didn't even know that. We had to tell him that.
So always SSH into a different machine. Stream from one machine and then do the install on another. So
I guess you could
And
do it.
neither of us even knew to do that, which was really sad.
well, I've streamed many times on bad equipment, so I already know that it's going to take 100% CPU to live stream on YouTube on most equipment. So if it's using 100% CPU to stream, you've got nothing to compile with. That's why those compile times were taking hours.
Well, I'm on my Mac Pro today, and unfortunately, that's why you can't see me, is because it doesn't detect the webcam.
Yeah. Well, are you running? I'm assuming you're running Linux on your Mac.
No, it's
Oh.
Mac OS, and
Okay.
unfortunately,
Okay, then it's logical we can see you.
yeah. I mean, the funny thing is, my MacBook, which is running the same OS, does not have this problem, unfortunately. But I don't have a USB 3 card put into this, so I don't know if that's the issue. But everything else is working fine. But anyway, to Chris's point, I actually have ran Gentoo for a long couple months, and unfortunately, he's right. It is a bear to live in for over a long period of time.
Alan Pope in the chat is saying CPU accelerated encoding in OBS for the win. Yeah, for folks like me, I've got a dedicated graphics card, a good one. Yeah, I could do it. But what Ricky was trying to install Gentoo on the other day was like older laptops. I doubt he had a GPU that could have streamed. So yeah, he probably had no other choice.
Yeah, he's not in the best financial situation to buy.
I mean, he had a machine that was still running Ubuntu 14.04. So that's 5 years old, that installs.
Okay. Docker run.
Yeah.
So what you been up to, Ben? You said you've got a Mac Pro. How old is that Mac Pro you're running?
It's a 5.1, so it's 2010, 2011, I believe.
Okay.
And I did put some SSDs in there and an extra drive for storage, that sort of thing. And
I notice you have mostly Apple hardware. Is that just what you've always stuck to? Is you just always buy Apple?
Well, I do have some PC machines, but those are what I run Linux on. In my opinion, it's not worth it to run a Mac with Linux, because here's the thing: you will drop Wi-Fi consistently. I've noticed that in my testing of doing it. And if you're on a 15-inch Mac, like the one that has dual graphics, you're only gonna get one of the graphics cards to work unless you put a lot of effort into it. Yeah. So it's just not a very fun project in the end. So it's more of it's just gonna drive you nuts at the end of the day.
Yeah, in the chat, Simply Linux is saying for better compile times, you need to install the EPIC chip, the new AMD EPIC processors, which are 64 core, 128 thread.
Mm-hmm. Those would work hella well.
Yeah, Michael Larabelle over at Phoronix did a big kernel compile with one of the new EPICs, and he was able to compile the kernel in under 10 seconds.
Yeah.
The full thing.
That was the big generic kernel too. That wasn't stripped
Probably
down.
Assume yes without it.
Yeah.
He said that was the first processor he had ever tested in the years of benchmarking, that he was able to get it under 10 seconds.
Yeah. And by the way, I did take the stock graphics card out of this Mac and put in a RX 560. But the only reason I'm not running Linux on it is because I can't get a boot screen to come up.
Okay.
Yeah, I probably will just run Linux in a virtual machine or something like that, because I have to do so much dang trickery to get it to install. So I would either have to wipe the drive of OS 10 or just take out every drive that I don't want to put Linux on. So, but it's okay because, you know, all you have to do is take the side panel off on the computer, and then and the way you do that is you flip the switch in the back, take the side panel off, and then just unplug every other drive you don't want Linux to take over. So, yeah.
All right.
So it's not that hard. I mean, it's just, you know, a little tedious, but hey, that's okay. So, yeah.
We had some hosting questions in the chat. Somebody was asking, I think they were asking you, Chris, DigitalOcean and Linode. You've used both?
Yeah, I've used both, and both are really good. I don't have any issues with either one. Just whichever one you can get the best deal on, you're going to be pretty happy. I mean,
what I really like about DigitalOcean, more so than the service, is they have such good documentation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the documentation is great.
Yeah,
I use it for all the things.
Yeah, I've personally used DigitalOcean way more than I have Linode, but whenever I did use Linode, I don't have anything against them. They're okay. And, you know, just I think a lot of times I skew towards DigitalOcean because I'm cheap, and usually they have a better deal.
Actually, just a bit of information. DigitalOcean, when you scale the storage, it becomes really expensive.
Okay. Yeah.
Base VM is quite cheap, but I did some comparison with others because I was doing some projects.
But you don't find cheap storage anywhere. If you want cheap storage, we've already discussed it. It's really Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. Like you have to do those.
Basically, compared to those three, it was basically DigitalOcean was way more expensive.
Yeah, everybody is. Yeah, nobody can compete with them as far as storage.
Well, also, like when you go use VPSs or virtual private servers on any service, you need to be optimizing to get the best bang for your buck. You should be using it for processing power, not storage. You should be posting your storage elsewhere, whether that's a external attached like CDN or something like that. Just make sure you don't have crazy amounts of throughput, because anything you send out of the VPS, you can break through your allocated amount, and then you get a giant bill. So there's a balancing act there, but I never really scale up on storage. I never have. I'd rarely ever have gone over, even in business, I don't think I've ever gone over 100 gigs on storage. I just don't trust it unless it's like cold storage, like Glacier on AWS. That's actually not too bad, but that's only for backups. And
that's long-term storage there.
Yeah. Long-term storage is fine. And most of my storage is that I put in the cloud is Backblaze. I love Backblaze. That's my jam. You can't find anything cheaper when you come to cloud storage than Backblaze. It's like, I think, a fifth of what you got on AWS and the others out there. So it's amazing.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, in the chat, I mentioned the guy named Simply Linux. You guys probably know Simply Linux. He used to be named Present Arms. So you guys know Alistair. I guess he changed his YouTube name and his YouTube channel name to Simply Linux. I like the rebranding. If you're going to do Linux content, Present Arms was more like a gun channel, where Simply Linux is, Me and Rocco had a discussion the other day. Rocco interviewed me on, he does a weekly show called Linux Spotlight. Yeah, he was asking about YouTube names and how people come up with them, and how so many people have to change their name, sometimes 2-3 times, as their content changes, interests change. So one of the things I admire about these folks like Chris that just use their name is, you're not pigeonholed into making one kind of content because, you named yourself maybe something inappropriate.
Well, actually, a funny story there, DT, is I actually did not start with Chris Titus Tech. I started with something completely different, and then my wife looked at it and was like, "You're going to go with that?" "Yeah, you are?" And I was like, "Yeah, it sounds cool." And she's like, "No." So I actually made, if you check my channel, I think you can find a first 10 or 15 videos. I branded my channel The Technology Vault. That was my actual first channel name. And then
I expected it to be much worse. The way you described it with your wife looking at you funny, I thought it was.
Yeah, you'd think it'd be worse than that, but yeah, no, that was my initial channel name, and it's too generic. That's the thing a lot of people don't do. If you make a channel, you want it to identify with the content, and then also you as the creator of the content.
Yeah.
And a lot of people go too generic, and then you just never get discovered. And then other times people can go too specific, like you said, DT, and it'll be only under just a sub niche of a regular topic, and that can also lead to burnout because you're just constantly doing the same content over.
Oh yeah, because I see guys getting trolled all the time. I know channels that I follow that I see people leaving comments. Hey man, why don't you change your name? You're not even making videos related to your name. You know, you'll get users that'll point that out to you.
Well, I mean, DistroTube's pretty generic, I think, as far as that.
Well, I wasn't mentioning me. I was saying other people. There's other channels I see that guys get trolled all the time because they have this name that they created originally, and then their content is nothing related to their name.
Yeah. When you're talking to Rocco, what did he say about his name? Did he ever regret picking Big Daddy Linux?
I asked him that because people always call me DT.
Yeah.
Which is the reason I picked the name DistroTube is because DT is my initials, Derek Taylor. So it works on two levels. But I asked Rocco, I was like, do you regret being Big Daddy? Because now everybody says, hey, what's up, Big Daddy? Big Daddy. And he kind of laughed. He says, well, nah, maybe that wasn't the greatest name, but he said he debated a couple of different things. Big Daddy Linux, Big Daddy on Tech. So, like, he had 3 or 4 different things, and he finally went with Big Daddy Linux.
Rocco's such a good guy. I love that guy. He's awesome.
And he had Big Daddy on Tech, but I guess because he wanted maybe to branch out other than just Linux, which is one thing. You throw Linux in the name, and then you do other content. Like you're reviewing hardware that's not specific to Linux, maybe Mac or Windows stuff, or even gaming platforms. And then you get people trolling you. Why are you even discussing this? You've got Linux in your name, you know? The Linux Gamer is a perfect example. Like 90% of his content has nothing to do with gaming, and he gets trolled constantly in his comments section by folks. Hey man, you're not even doing gaming content anymore. What's up? And he tells them, well, I don't do that much gaming content because nobody really watches it. It doesn't get that many views. Not that many people are interested in specifically Linux gaming. So that's why he does other content. But then, okay, if you're not going to do that, why don't you change your name? This is the next thing they throw at him. It's like, what does the name matter? I mean,
it doesn't. I know. I did. I think I suggested to him he needs to change it to the Linux Gardener.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that would.
Also, he could keep initials. I was like, man, it'd be perfect. The Linux Gardener. You know, you're curating Linux content, and it's your first name. So, but hey, I don't think he's going to change his name.
Yeah, Zeb in the chat says, good luck working out what content my channel hosts from the name. Ha. Yeah, so. And those of you that don't follow Zebedee Boss, he does live Linux game streams pretty regularly, almost every day.
Yeah.
He usually is doing the trucking simulations, Euro Trucker and American Trucker. All right. So, have you thought about doing a different name, or are you just good with Chris Titus Tech?
Oh no, that's will be my name from now on till the end. Because man, that's.
I only ask because it does seem like most people eventually do a name change, or at least contemplate it. Like it's in the back of your head. Maybe I should go a different direction.
No, like Chris Titus Tech just speaks to everything I'm passionate about. So like anything I'd ever want to talk about on YouTube revolves around technology, and I can dip into every single bucket. And at this point, most people know my name, and I'm like, hey, it matches everything that I do. So it's perfect. I would never change my name now. I think it's at the point where I'm like, okay, awesome. It's taken off under this, and that's what I'll stick to. Because honestly, I did a lot of research after my initial name change to Chris Titus Tech after doing the research. And a lot of that was mainly dealing with identifying your content and branding your content.
Right.
And most of the research I did said, hey, use your name if you're unsure of what you're going to do. If you can't really niche down and talk about that one subject in length. And at the time when I switched my name, I hadn't even done a Linux video. So that's why there's no real Linux in my actual channel name. And a lot of times I like that because I can entice a lot more Windows users and those types of people to come into Linux and try it out. And really that's my whole purpose. You know, I always mention that, hey, getting people going from Windows to Linux is my whole purpose.
Yeah, someone in the chat said, yeah. So basically, you're passionate about yourself since you include your name in the. So,
exactly, man.
Right. That's what you're passionate about.
I love myself. I just stare at myself for at least 30 minutes every morning in the mirror and just go, my God, you have such a beautiful face.
I had this conversation with Luke Smith as well, with his channel because, you know, so many of his subscribers follow him because of Linux content, but most of his content has absolutely nothing to do with Linux. Like he does content on linguistics and some of his college studies and on just farming, philosophy, you know, just all kinds of different stuff. And the reason is he doesn't want to be a Linux channel. He just wants to talk about what he wants to talk about. That's why it's named after his name. And I think that's kind of a good way to go if you don't want to be pigeonholed, you know, just name it after your name.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I at this point I can totally, I'm never going to switch off that purpose. I mean, it's not like I'm going to achieve my purpose in the next 10 years, probably about 5 to 10 years, hopefully is my goal, really, to get so many people coming from Windows to Linux is that. So I could probably rebrand into something around that, but I don't really see a purpose. I don't think there would be much point at this stage to rebrand, but yeah, it's kind of funny.
So was anybody here interested, or did any of you guys order one of the PineBook laptops? Anybody check that out? Yeah, I didn't grab one either. I know they went on sale the other day, the $199 PineBook Pro.
Oh crap!
I didn't grab one, and they sold out like really fast.
I was about to say, if they're still for sale, I'll go grab one. I didn't even realize they went on sale already.
At least I think they sold out. Let me go to, it's pine64.org is their website. Let's see. No, you can't add it to the cart anymore, so I guess they sold out. Yeah. Oh well. But we finally had a really cheap Linux laptop. Because that's always been the complaint, is these machines that come pre-installed with Linux especially tend to be high-end machines, like the Dell XPS that's like $1,300 or whatever it is. So, you know, those are not the machines to get mass adoption of Linux, right? You need that $300 laptop that you can buy at Best Buy, you know, right there next to the Acers, you know, the other cheap Windows laptops, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have the chance to buy one either, Derek.
Yeah. Yeah, Zeb in the chat says the next batch of 1,000 is due in September. It's nearly sold out too. So yeah, apparently there's a big demand for them.
Yeah, I'm seeing this right now. I'm trying to buy one, and it looks like October.
Now I see the page too. Estimated dispatch in October. So the September ones are already gone.
Holy mackerel. That's awesome. I mean, it's always good to see someone succeed, especially around this. Because at the end of the day, you get adoption when people just have it already on the laptop when they power it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the chat, Telcerus, old ThinkPads are amazing. A lot of them are sub $200. Yes, you can find old ThinkPads on eBay for $100 all day long. And typically they come without a hard drive, but no big deal. Buy like a cheap SSD for $40, a 256 gig SSD. Throw it in there, install Linux, and it's basically like a new machine. Gonna run better than certainly whatever version of Windows originally shipped on the thing. For $200, you can have a really good ThinkPad running Linux. Obviously, it won't be a new model, but you don't need a new model for anything that most of us do. all my laptops actually were bought used. One of them I bought used on eBay. No drive, 4 gigs of RAM.
I just don't like laptops. That's my thing. Like everything I have, everything in my rack back here is all recycled parts from, people I've met in my career that just said, here you go. You know what? I told people I was filling out a rack. I got so many donations that it filled up all 42 U's of just all kinds of different types of computers that in there. And some of them I had to buy like cheap cases and convert them that way, but never spent more than, $60-70 really. And, they're pretty decent computers. I have a couple i5s in there, only 3rd gen, but still not bad.
Yeah, that's all you need, though.
Yeah.
So you probably found a lot of stuff for free then, huh? Like throwaway. Wasn't even being used. Yeah.
Yeah, everything.
You'd be surprised. Yeah. I've refurbished many machines that people thought were just dead. Windows, it's riddled with viruses. It's slow, won't even boot up. And they're throwing it away. It's out on the street, ready for garbage pickup.
Yep.
Format the drive, put Linux on it. Do you want your computer back? Yeah, if it's working, I'll take it. You'd be surprised how you've been to like a Best Buy and see, the people bring their machines up there to be recycled, and half that stuff still works. But I'm hoping they probably do refurbish a lot of that. Hopefully, maybe they donate it to schools or something.
Yeah, actually, DT, I worked at Best Buy for a long time in the early 2000s, and it did get recycled. There was a pickup, but a lot of the times I actually worked right before the transition or right during the transition in, I think, 2001, 2002 to Geek Squad. I was part of that whole transition, and I remember I got so many computers just from clients and stuff. I'd go out to fix their computers back then, and they'd just be like, hey, you want this old computer? And I'd be like, sure. So almost all of my PCs, I have my wife's PC's 15 years old, and it's still rocking, and it's still decent computer. So it's awesome.
Yeah. In the chat, Alan Pope is saying he needs to calm down a little bit with his ThinkPad addiction. He now owns 13 ThinkPads.
Holy smokes!
13.
Wow.
What?
Well, yeah, that's a lot of ThinkPads. Of course, Alan works at Canonical. I'm not exactly sure if he's using those 13 laptops for work or he just likes collecting them. Maybe it's, like some people have a collection of figurines or toys, or
I used to have a collection of Yu-Gi-Oh cards all over my room.
Wow, that's cool. I wouldn't have said that on a live stream, but that's really neat, man.
I used to be really into cards. I don't know why, but I did.
But Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, Alan says he uses 2 of the ThinkPads for work, so the other 11 that's weird.
Oh shoot! Yeah. Well, every laptop that I have has some form of Linux on it. The only complaint that I have about 2 of them is that they have dual graphics cards, and the HP that I have is from 2011. So unfortunately, I can't get the AMD portion of it working because it requires the FGLRX driver, which is no longer maintained. So yeah, that's going to be impossible to get working.
Right.
And for those who don't know, the FGLRX is the old AMD proprietary drivers. So unfortunately, I am stuck without that on my laptop. So,
yeah, you got to be careful with, especially old AMD video drivers. If you go back far enough with their video cards, you won't have. It's not even supported anymore in Linux, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I'll just use the Intel and call it a day.
Yeah.
Because it's an Intel HD 3000 driver, which unfortunately still works compared to the AMD cards. But that's okay.
Yeah, I was just checking DistroWatch, what the latest distro releases in the last week or so. The Black Arch had a release, which is a pen testing distro based on Arch. Never really tried that.
Yeah.
Bedrock Linux also had a release. People have asked me about Bedrock, but it is a very, very strange distribution that I would be scared to put it anywhere near physical hardware like my production machine, because it basically takes a working install of whatever Linux distribution you're running, in my case, Arco, and it basically changes it and morphs it into this bastard child called Bedrock that uses Pac-Man and apt. Like, it's just a strange distribution. I'm not sure what the point is. I've been to their website and read some of their about pages and stuff. I still don't understand what the point of this distribution is.
Chris has great experience with that.
Yeah.
Why do I need apt and Pac-Man? Why do I need the Debian repos and the Arch repos? Both. I've never found anything that wasn't in the Debian or Arch repos. So I damn sure don't need both. Like, why do
Oh, no. So DT, I actually did this on my main production machine back when I was brand new to Linux desktop, because I was like, install Bedrock Linux. I was like, yeah, man, I've just distro hopped 6 times in the past 3 months. Why not another time? So
Yeah.
I went ahead and just installed it right on my fresh Debian based machine. And I didn't really understand that what it does is like creates almost like a Bedrock Linux root, and then it tacks on all the different distributions almost in like containers. And then you can do Zipper, you can do APT, you can do Pac-Man, you can do every one of them on the same portion. And it was just a nightmare. I remember it was a complete disaster. I made a video. It's called, I think, Bedrock Disaster.
Yeah.
And that was me just being a complete noob and installing something I had no business installing.
I guess what they need is kind of like we talked about marketing and branding yourself. You know, what's the point of this distribution? As I don't get the point.
I don't
It's
either.
Like, why would I want to do this to a working Arch install, for example? Or, you know, a working Ubuntu install? Why would I want to take something that works just fine and throw Bedrock Linux on it? What advantages am I getting running this?
Yeah, that's the
Right.
thing. I don't understand what you'd actually get from it.
Yeah, even their website really doesn't tell me that. It's part of the problem.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I don't see a point in Bedrock, but you can honestly, I guess there's maybe like a couple isolated packages somewhere that maybe you'd want to install. I don't know. I mean, honestly, for the mess it makes, I would never tell anyone to install Bedrock Linux ever.
Yeah. I get trolled about that one a lot as far as Bedrock, and I won't touch it.
Yep.
Might touch it in a VM or maybe on a test machine. It's not going anywhere near any of the drives in this machine, though. I just don't trust it. Even though I have like 6 drives in this machine, because of the nature of that distro, I'm afraid it might rewrite the wrong drive. You know, it might touch my real install. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch it, man. Like I said, I had a bad experience, but I was a complete noob when I touched it too. So now I could probably get around, but yeah, there's no point to it.
Yeah, Alan Pope. DT, you can make the same argument about 80% of Linux distros as far as I don't see the point of it. I often make that that same argument for those other distros. There's a lot of them that don't really seem to have much of a purpose. Let's see. Yeah, will I touch Qubes OS sometime as a daily driver? Qubes OS is interesting. I think just the containerized nature of it is kind of neat. I get why Qubes OS exists. Totally. The problem with that is even testing it out, you can't test it out in a VM of any kind because of the container technology it uses. You actually have to install it on physical hardware to even just try it out. So that kind of sucks. Like if I really wanted to try out Qubes OS the very first time, I mean, I would actually have to wipe out my existing install and hope Qubes OS works, you know, the way I want it to. So, but yeah, Qubes OS, I might try at some point. And people have also asked me about some of the Free Software Foundation approved distros like Parabola, which is Arch, but totally free Arch. And another one, I've had a guy that hangs out in my IRC chat ask me about a million times is Geeks, Guix, which is a French distro called Geeks. And it's another Free Software Foundation approved distro. I don't know anything about it, but I may try Parabola and Geeks at some point. Let's see, Zeb, what is the Ubuntu share of the Linux market? And he's asking Alan Pope, who works at Canonical. I don't even know if Canonical could answer that, but maybe Alan can. I don't think there's any metric that you can point to for any accurate numbers. One thing for sure that's not an accurate measurement is DistroWatch. I hate anytime people mention DistroWatch. I mean, if you're looking at DistroWatch right now, MX Linux is in the #1 position, and it has more than double the distro in the #2 position, which is Manjaro. So unless you think about 80% of desktop Linux users are running MX Linux, DistroWatch rankings are not anywhere close to being accurate.
The closest thing I can find to a decently like ballpark figure on this one, because I did a video Ubuntu versus Debian about this specific thing, and most of that statistics I pulled were directly from browser-based sources. So like stat counters and those types of things are your best generalized numbers. But the beauty of Linux is nobody knows the answer to this question, because guess what? We don't install a whole bunch of spyware on our system. So it's really up to the user to report this. And if they don't want to report what they're using, they don't have to. So we just don't know. Nobody does. But the gist of Ubuntu's market share is about a quarter of the market. So about 25% is ballpark.
Yeah, I did a video early on in my channel's history, basically saying that DistroWatch is garbage. And if you want a better way to measure distro popularity, look at SERPs, search engine result pages, for the terms that people are searching for, such as Ubuntu, Fedora, Debian. You know, you can get a pretty good measurement of what people are interested in. Much better measurement than DistroWatch. The other thing is communities, like their support forums. Go check out how many people are on the forums at their official websites, how many posts are there. That gives you some idea of the numbers of people that are actually running those distros. We had somebody, Alan actually did answer the question that Zeb asked. He says Ubuntu had the most, and then probably Mint, Debian, Arch, and Fedora. And after that, who cares? Which, you know, that might be right. I would assume, yeah, Ubuntu definitely probably has more desktop Linux users than any other distro. And I would assume, yeah, Debian and Fedora and Arch for sure have a lot of users. Mint. Yeah, after that, I don't know. SUSE, maybe? I don't know. Like, you don't see... Yeah, I've been a desktop Linux user for a long time, and, you know, I come across people in real life that use Linux, and when you ask them what they use, or you see it on their laptops, you know, at, you know, bus station, or at place of employment, or maybe at Starbucks, and you see somebody running Linux, it does seem like the overwhelming majority, in my time in Linux, have been Ubuntu users. I do see occasional Fedora users out there. It's not unusual to find a Fedora user or two out there.
You don't see that many Arch.
You don't see that many Arch users out there? Well, it depends. Like, if you're going to some place that's technical, like if you went to like a Linux user group or maybe a conference or something, yeah, you might find more, because developers would typically be on more rolling release distros. You'd find a lot more Arch, maybe some Gentoo mixed in there. Mm-hmm. But I'm just talking the general public, you don't come across that many people running these things.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Try to get it approved by corporate anyway, if you're working at a corporate place.
Oh yeah, especially like in a business environment. Yeah, it's all going to be Ubuntu, right? Why would you throw something that's a community distro on a work machine? You wouldn't, because you've got no support for it. If it doesn't have a corporation behind it, they're not even interested in the business world. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you have to hand compile it every couple of months.
Oh my! Can you imagine if a business put Gentoo in there?
Yeah, they'd be like,
Actually,
"What
it's
the
that
heck?"
bad because you can actually compile on one system and create a binary repository. It is possible to do that, but it is still work that most companies won't do.
Yeah, in the chat, somebody was mentioning that the numbers for CentOS are quite high. And the Google Search Analytics, yeah. Now, the Google search engine result pages, you have to understand, obviously, when you're typing distro names, it's not desktop or server specific. It just takes everything into account. So, yeah, there's a lot of people that search for CentOS and for Debian, but nobody's really probably running those on their desktop or laptop. For sure not CentOS. You know, it's all server all the time for CentOS.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, it's a very popular. I'm sure CentOS has tens of millions, maybe, of installs, right? For sure. That is all on web servers.
Yep.
Yeah. How much users Azure as Linux have? I'm not sure. How many? What is the percentage of Linux in Azure, Big Pod? Do we know? I know it's most of it now.
I believe many virtual machines in Azure are Linux, about more than 50%, but Azure itself is run Windows.
Well,
yeah. So like when it comes to the servers in a data center, I can think almost directly to this question. Almost no matter where you're at, Azure, GCP, AWS, doesn't matter. Almost all of them are going to be more Linux based because one, Linux is a free operating system and you don't have to pay for licensing. Just to give a comparison here, to do just a 42U rack, let's say I wanted to rack and stack something like that in full Windows servers, from a company perspective, you're looking at like a CapEx of almost $250,000 in just licensing, because many of these servers will require Windows Server. Then you have the licensing on top of Windows Server for a lot of like your RDP and terminal services, and then other things that go into the Windows environment, such as a lot of the Citrix stuff that doesn't play well with Linux. But these are extremely expensive, and from an actual IT perspective, which is my bread and butter, is IT management, that type of thing, is all based on, when I can use Linux, I do, because it saves me just a ton of money just in licensing alone is just amazing. So that's why I always, when it comes to that, it's not even comparable. It's not even 50%. I would say it's more like a 70-30 split when it comes to Linux compared to Windows Server.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Most Windows servers are basically hosts for file servers for companies and what are those called? Domain controllers.
Mm-hmm.
That's where most find, or in-company website hosts where already have other Windows Server infrastructure like domain controllers. They will do internal websites with IIS.
Yeah, there's a couple that use that for like ASP.NET and some other certain things that they need IIS for. But
Oracle, for example, runs on Windows Server as a website. I know they are ASP.NET based, but nowadays with Core, many of such websites switch to Linux because Core can run on Linux. Basically, it's first-class citizen.
Like one other thing I think a lot of like companies miss, like I think I saw a little bit in chat, people saying like Ubuntu, SUSE, a couple other ones that offer Red Hat that offer like support for corporate or business things, is that's never really going to take off, and it never has taken off, mainly because a lot of people don't know about Linux. A lot of people don't use it at their home. I honestly think residential stuff needs to come first to really hit the end user. And that's really where Linux misses as a whole. And that's why I try and push so much for the residential side of things, where I think so many businesses misstep and think that all of a sudden someone's going to just say, hey, you know what, we're switching. It happens, mind you. Some countries and government agencies have switched to Linux, but usually, sometimes they switch back to Windows, and it's messy.
Yeah.
A lot of that deals with knowledge, and really, before we can see widespread adoption, we need to start hitting more of the residential side of things, and that's where obviously we failed as a community thus far, with the actual making everyday users more knowledable of Linux.
Yeah. When everyday users will be using Linux, then even companies will be much more incentivized to switch to Linux, because now most of the people use Windows. So it's much easier to just give them a Windows computer and they will know how to do things. Even if you give them, let's say, Windows 10, even they use Windows 7 at home, they will be much easier to learn than if you give them Linux. And I actually talked with some IT professionals in companies, and they said that to get into from the computer aspect, how much money they will spend, it's actually cheaper for them to, in reasonable time, get money back if they had to repurchase all Windows licenses. Because Linux itself, first of all, they will have to learn Linux, how to support everything. Then they'll have to every guy will need to be 1 month basically they'll have to teach them Linux, every new software, whatever, and then they don't expect another year or two to have the same peak efficiency as they have now, because everybody will take longer to do things, and year or two it's not as efficient, and basically it is much better to just leave Windows than to go Linux.
Mm-hmm. Do we worry too much about Linux adoption, especially on the desktop?
Yes, we do.
I mean, it seems like it's never going to happen. Why are we so obsessed with competing with Windows and Mac and Chrome OS and things like this, on consumer devices?
So I can answer this question, because that's all me, DT. You know me. Mm-hmm. I'm all about adoption, increasing adoption. And really what it boils down to, I think too many people focus on the wrong parts of adoption. But there's two main purposes I have when it comes to adoption. One, general knowledge is a good thing. Educating people is a great thing. And that's when you see the adoption. And then two, a lot of more mainstream and widespread support of Linux really will contribute to its growth. A lot of things we just don't have in Linux, and certain things that we will never have if we continue this minute, small community. I want us to grow. I want to push us there, and I want more mainstream people to come in, because that can only mean good things for us as a whole when it comes to, we're speaking about Linux desktop, because most people just don't even realize we're even there. So,
in my opinion, we should more focus on phones and tablets. That's where most of the stuff goes now. It basically, especially with families, you can give them a single tablet and it will replace a desktop PC easily. Especially now that they have wireless printers where you can print from your phone or tablet just as much as you can print from desktop.
Yeah, Big Pod's not wrong there. I think I agree with you, Big Pod. I mean, desktop, now obviously I'm an exception to the rule, but generally speaking, Big Pod's absolutely right here. Tablets and phones have pretty much taken over the home or residential environment. Very few people have a desktop computer anymore.
Yeah, especially the younger generation.
Yeah.
It's all mobile now, so.
Well, I can deal without a laptop, at least. I see a lot of people who will just take a tablet. Even I take a tablet for certain things, but for most of the stuff, I have to have a laptop on hand if I don't have a desktop PC.
Yeah, I think too many people, though, worry about this desktop market share. like Linux would die if we don't increase our market share on the desktop, and we so dominate the server market and the mobile market, and so the cloud and everything, that Linux is easily the most popular operating system on the planet.
Overall, Linux is most popular.
But it's like the general public doesn't get it. We're still this small niche operating system that's struggling just to get started. It's like, no, a lot of people just don't understand.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's what I think it is. And that's why I always kind of focus. I try not to fall into the traps that all the big personalities in Linux fall into, is talking about distributions, where I think Alan said in chat, all we're doing is cannibalizing on each other when it comes to distributions. And then two, just talking news and stuff, because I think education is really where, or just reaching out to the general audience. Like sometimes I make some weird videos, like people are like, huh, that's not really Linux-ish. And a lot of times what I'm trying to do is just reach out and pull in different crowds to introduce Linux to them. And that's my thing, is educating, and then the reach out aspect of things to really get that going.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I another question is, does Linux do a good job at marketing itself? No.
No,
I mean, really.
No.
Because really the face of Linux, really, a lot as far as the people out there marketing it, is the community. And the community doesn't have one voice, right? It's all these different voices. We all want something different. And I think also to those looking from the outside of this community, we look like a bunch of arrogant, elitist a-holes.
Yeah.
Right?
And in many cases, we are that.
Well, if you want to go there, Big Pod.
Big Pod.
Not just.
Real up in here, man.
We're Linux people are really self-absorbed, in my opinion, including me. We think our operating system is the best.
Well, it is the best, Big Pod. We're just stating facts here, okay? Everything else is just inferior.
We're too much self-absorbed. We think what we use is the best. It's a lot.
Well, there's nothing wrong with doing it if you're having fun. Like one of the crazy things people love to say is this: by the way, I use Arch, and it's tired and it's old. It's a meme. And these people that just love to put it in your face, I'm running Arch. But it's done in fun, right? They're not trying to insult you if you don't use Arch. They're not really trying to say I'm so much better than you because I use Arch. It's just become kind of a meme, a fun thing. It's a joke, right? It's the people that take it. There, like Big Pot said, there are some really elitist jackasses out there. I've seen them in forums that are not nice to new to Linux users. They basically want them to just go away. They want this to remain a niche operating system. They want this to remain a small elite club, right? They don't welcome the masses. They don't want a lot of new users in their forums and IRC chats. And I think those people hurt us. Because some of those people actually are the ones that have the bigger voices, especially in like support forums and IRC chats. Some of them have positions that are kind of high with some of these distros, as far as they're like on the board and things like that. And I think we need to get rid of some of those people.
The biggest hurt for Linux currently is the whole free software thing, where while I do think free software is a good initiative to head, but it is too much outcry of it. It's the most hurt initiative where it just creates this weird atmosphere in Linux. Whenever people start free software, FOSS, Libre software, just create this weird atmosphere where they basically say we're better than everyone else because we follow some random philosophy that one guy thought of a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Like, you get that, but I mean, it's fine. Like, I always tell people, at the end of the day, we have all these different tribes in Linux, and really, it's like DT said earlier. A lot of times, we all want the same thing, and we have the same vision of the future for the most part. There are those little micro things where people want to keep Linux small, but at the end of the day, I think that's just such a few amount of users. It just is, you just can ignore them. They're just pretty vocal. But
well, I don't think
they are vocal.
People promoting free and open source software, it's not a problem, Big Pot. I think the problem is, and I've seen this, is the people that insult people that run proproprietary software. I've seen that.
The problem are those that are too much vocal about it. Problem on those, and those are most of the time guys who will make the most problem.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get that, but yeah, I mean, it's fine. I think at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, and it's just being courteous to one another, being nice to all the new people that come in, and not scaring people off, and that's the big thing.
Well, I think people too tend to take things personally that they shouldn't. Like I often call proprietary software, quote, proprietary garbage. If you're running Chrome, it's proprietary garbage. If you're running Microsoft Office, it's proprietary garbage. And then I get people, why are you calling me names? Like I've gotten emails and comments and things like that. I was like, what are you talking about, calling you names? You called Microsoft Office proprietary garbage. I have to run it. I was like, well, I didn't call you a name. I called the software you run a name. It's like,
well, I think
you are not that thing, right?
I come from a country where that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, when it comes down to it,
for example, I use Microsoft Office. I use Office 365. So if I'm insulting you, I'm insulting myself because I have to use proprietary software sometimes, even myself. That still doesn't negate the fact it's proprietary garbage. Yeah. But some people really get upset every time I call whatever proprietary piece of software they use garbage. And, it's like they relate to this software they have to use, like it's a part of themselves. And I don't get that because I'm not tied to any of this. There's nothing I'm using that, I hold near and dear to my heart. Like it's family, right?
It's a thing people do. Take everything personal.
Mm-hmm.
People do.
Yeah, and I mean some of that too. I mean, when you get into YouTube and you get like DT, when you get to be as big as you or I in that amount of viewership and stuff, you're just going to get stuff that's you're not going to be able to please everybody. And I think that's just, it goes with the territory. I mean, heck, just moving into the studio, I had emails of people going, hey, I don't like your new studio. It seems too sterile. I liked being a guest in your house and you're not. And you just get weird stuff like that, and you're just like, it is what it is. Can't.
Anytime you change anything about your channel, you're gonna get. And I like the old way.
Yeah.
Well, you get half of them say I liked what you were doing before, and half of them will say, yeah, the new thing looks great. And then you're like, well, what do you go with?
Yep.
You go with what you want to go with, Chris. You don't worry about the audience.
Yeah.
The audience is never gonna be 100% on anything. So.
Yeah, no doubt, man. True words.
And what do I think about the NVIDIA proprietary driver on Ubuntu? I don't know who that was to, but the NVIDIA proprietary drivers have always worked great for me. I was always an NVIDIA user forever until recently I switched to an AMD card. The proprietary drivers have always worked on Ubuntu, so I'm not sure.
But it's still proprietary garbage.
It is, but you have to use it on NVIDIA. You have no choice with NVIDIA, unfortunately.
That's true.
NVIDIA has a open source driver, but it is so bad.
No, driver is crap, especially
like to do what I do.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, I couldn't. No, it wouldn't work for me. I would have to use the proprietary, and I did. That was one of the proprietary programs I always had to install, just because there was no other option. On my laptops, wireless drivers are the same way. Some of those are proprietary. There's no option for an open driver. There's a couple of things you just can't get away from. Yeah.
Because my system doesn't boot.
If you're a gamer, then you're running proprietary software all day long. You've got no choice because, what open source games are there? There's a few, but it's not there's no AAA titles out there that are open source, right? It's all proprietary. It's all on Steam and Lutris. It's all filled with DRM. You just have to live in that world if you want a game. So.
Yeah, actually, I had something earlier on the stream. I was like, hey, I'm going over to DT's stream when I was on Twitch, and people were like, hey, you're going to get DT to play Minecraft. And I was like, there's no way in hell I could ever get DT. Even if I bought him the game and gave it to him, he'd be like, nope. There's an open source alternative, and it's called Mindtest, and it's just as good.
You know what? There is open source on that, but you know what? If you want to do some gaming, I do have Steam installed on this computer. I have a Steam account, and yeah, we'll play something. I don't know anything about Minecraft. I'd be a complete Minecraft noob. You want to do a gaming stream sometime? We'll get together. We'll get Alan Pope in the chat too. He loves to play games every now and then. We'll get a little group together and. Maybe have some.
I sometimes play games.
Yeah,
we'll do a voice chat in Discord. Yeah, and just.
Heck yeah, that would be awesome.
We could stream it on your channel, my channel, both channels, everybody's channel. We just spam YouTube with whatever this game is.
That'd be great. I think probably, it's something good.
Yeah, probably get taken down though. Yeah, because somebody would mention something that YouTube has a problem with.
We will have a great conversations.
Right. Yeah, Alan says he'd be up for that. Yeah, I know I've played Alan before at some first-person shooters. He's really good at Xonotic, which is a free and open-source first-person shooter. He's certainly better than I am. I suck so bad at shooters, but I try. All right, guys. Well, we're coming up on the end of the 2 hours here, so why don't everybody take a minute or two and give us a last word? So. What you want to send us out with, Big Pod?
Thanks, DT, for making the stream, and thank you everyone for watching. Now I'd like to be a bit more like promoting myself, specifically a project I help with. It's called Duplistic. It's a Python-based application.
Link it in the chat too.
To find duplicate images in your directories. Right now, I'm involved with packaging the application, and we're doing stuff with packaging for Snap, and currently we only have AUR package that is out there. And if you want to check it out, it's under.
Now, did you make a Snap for it?
We're currently in the production of Snap.
Because, you know, Alan Pope, of course, can help you with the Snap packaging. I know you said you had some issues with it.
Yeah, it was a long, hard thing to do, but I did it.
Oh, so you got the Snap working?
Yeah, the Snap working now. We're
okay, great.
Doing hard stuff regarding Snap.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll check it out. I'll check out both packages. I'll check out the AUR package and the Snap pack and see how it works on my machine.
Also, I started to get involved with another project, Folk Finder, which is a application which you can first of all you need to basically you put who is who on faces, and then over time it will automatically, using computer vision, detect who is who and categorize it. Both of projects are open source and they are licensed under MIT. So if you want to fork it, go ahead. We have no problem with that.
All right. Well, I mean, if it's a license under the MIT license, I can do whatever the hell I want with it. So
it's a better license than GPT. So
no, it's not a better license than the GPL.
It is.
No. But we'll debate that on another show.
Okay.
The GPL has those restrictions on what you can do with the software for a reason. And so somebody can't take your work, close source it, make it proprietary and sell it. The GPL doesn't allow that, and I like that.
Go ahead.
But anyway,
do it. If you wanna do it, do it. We're not really that problematic with that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, license it under whatever you want. Obviously, yeah. If you're cool with it, that's. It's kind of like run the software you want to run. Yeah, license it under the license you want to run. I was just saying, for me, the MIT license isn't a better license. So. But yeah, did you link to Dupliseek in the YouTube chat for the folks that
No, I haven't. Let me do that.
Are you hosting it on GitHub or GitLab? Or?
It's on GitLab.
Okay. Yeah, post a link for everybody.
Let me see if I'm logged in into YouTube on this machine.
No.
Yep, I am.
Okay. Very cool. All right, Willie, give us the last word, sir.
Yeah, hey man, this is my first time to tune into your channel or into your live stream, and you know, just sit back and chill. And you know, I kind of took the day off because, well, I got a lot of vacation time, and I need to start spending it.
Nice.
So it's kind of worked out. Yeah, man,
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, we're glad to see you. Yeah, come back and do another one with us. I typically don't do these on a Friday, like during the week. I try to do them typically on Sundays. My Sundays are not good here lately. So it's a little bit of a different day of the week and a little bit of a different time than I typically like to do these. But it's good to see you, Willie. Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah. Chris, give us the last word, sir.
Well, thank you, DT. You always put on a great show. Thanks for inviting me on. And it's always fun chatting with the community. And one thing I will say, sometimes it's I do say some inflammatory things, and I just want everyone to know sometimes it's just trying something new as far as trying to reach more people, because I know I'm a big proponent of Linux adoption, and a lot of times I do say it in jest. My wife always tells me some people don't get my sarcasm because I'm a pretty dry humor kind of guy. So if I offended anybody, I apologize, except for you, Alan. Ubuntu's the devil.
Well, just briefly on that, I do think sometimes it's not just on YouTube or on camera, but in real life. Have you ever had a conversation with somebody and you were telling them something and then they hear something totally different?
Every day.
It's like you can't even have a it's like you're speaking a different language. And I think sometimes that can be an issue too. You're saying something and meaning something, but what people are hearing can be totally different sometimes. So you kind of have to take that into consideration, even if it's not what you mean. Are people going to take it the wrong way? So, right?
Yep.
All right. Sinkwich, give us the last word, sir. Send us out.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining the stream. Thanks for doing this. It's you didn't have to do this, but I know everyone that follows you is appreciative of it.
Yeah, these are fun though. I mean, this is because this is content. That's just me chatting with some friends, internet friends, but still, you guys, I consider you real friends, right? I mean, I feel like Big Pod's a part of the family. I've known him so long now. So yeah. Anything else, Sync?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, maybe one day I'll join you and Chris and others in making videos, but for now, I'm sitting and watching.
Well, I can't wait to watch your videos if you start a channel. Keep us informed on that.
Will do.
And of course, I will. My last word is just thank you guys for joining me. You guys on camera here. Also want to thank the patrons that couldn't make it here this morning. These names here on the screen. Thank you, each and every one of you. Also want to thank you guys that are hanging out in the YouTube chat. So a bunch of you still hanging out with us. You guys make it interesting because you guys, great questions, great comments. And sometimes you keep the stream going when we kind of run out of things to talk about. So big thanks for that. And other than that, I'm out. Peace, guys.